Welcome back, everybody, to the third and final day of magFAST 2021, benefiting Child's Play to the children's hospitals and the domestic violence shelters around the world. We all know why we're here. Coming up next is one of my favorite games. It is Link's Awakening on the DX, and I'm going to toss it over to PhantomMat to get this one going. Matt, take it away.
Hello everybody, you might remember me from last year where everything went chaotically wrong. I'm PhantomMat, I'm back playing more Link's Awakening DX. This time we're doing 100% no wrong warp or out of bounds. And I've brought some friends with me, so that way I don't have to talk as much, because everyone hates the sound of my voice. Go ahead and introduce yourself, guys.
Hi, I'm Spice Father. You might remember me if you watched Glyph DX at GDQ.
And I'm Spearster. You know nothing about me.
He is a blueberry. So, the run starts same way every time. You just scream. Just, you can name it whatever you want for this. And, I don't know, you're all ready?
I'm ready if you're ready.
You're the runner.
I'm never ready. 3, 2, 1, go? Go. Yay, let's go.
So how much do you want to talk? How much do you want us to talk?
Go for it.
Alrighty, well,
yeah.
I guess to start off, I'm just going to go over what the category is. So it's 100%, which doesn't mean doing absolutely everything in the game. It just means basically anything that's in your inventory we need to have completed. So that's all the items you can collect, all of the capacity upgrades, your tunic, and photographs, and a few other things. And the no wrong warp, no out of bounds rules are basically you have to stay within where you're supposed to be, mostly.
All the doors are supposed to lead to the right places.
Yeah, and there's one extra requirement, and that's a source requirement, being similar to kind of Ocarina of Time rules, where if you acquire an item or an upgrade or whatever it is, it has to be attained from the original source or the intended source. Which we get. Well, there's a skip later on in the run that you'll see where we get something in an unintended way, but technically from the original source. So.
Yeah, one spot that would pop up is with secret seashells, which we need 20 of to get the level 2 sword. And you can do a glitch so that you can just collect 5 and then glitch the other 15, but that's not allowed. So anyway, Matt's farming some rupees. He's using a trick called rupee duping, where basically you collect a rupee with both Link's hitbox and his sword or his shield. And that gives you 2 at the same time, if you're lucky.
And this is a really lucky start.
This is unheard of for me, I'm gonna be honest.
This is marathon luck, but actual luck.
And last time, I spent like 5 minutes farming rupees. I don't know what you're talking about.
So we need those 10 rupees so that we can buy bombs here instead of stealing them and dying another time, but we're gonna do a little trick where we save and quit out while your rupee count is counting down, and because you don't actually see your count go down, the game doesn't think you've lost them. So we still have the 10, but we did technically buy them, so we don't have to take another stealing death.
Yeah, because if you save and quit before the counter actually updates, then the rupees stay in your wallet. And the 10 rupees are really for this. We play the trendy game here because even though there's a bit of a side quest early game to get the mushroom and see the witch and get the powder, oh my god, he missed the powder.
Just had to say something. Did I get the bow? I need to re-steal the bow. Oh man.
Oh my god.
I did the same thing that I always do. I don't know what happened.
Use your early luck and flush it down the drain.
Look, I have 3 minutes to burn for a PB. I'll be fine. 4 minutes.
Yeah, you say that.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, what I was trying to say is that early game, you have to get past Terran the Raccoon with powder, which requires visiting the witch with the mushroom. And for whatever reason, the developers didn't think to stop the powder from spawning here until that point. So you can just skip everything with 10 rupees and get this here instead.
We did it!
And it's very easy to collect. You can do it 10 out of 10 times, no problem.
If I have learned anything, it's actually 99%, and you're gonna hit the 1% every time. Every time you need to get it.
Well, the thing is, you can save a few frames by cutting the timing really close on the crane grab, and it's just embarrassing when you fail, but it's usually just trying to save a few frames.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there.
I mean, obviously you didn't do what you always do,
I did.
because you normally get the powder.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if Matt tried and failed or just got the early equip out of the way, but the bombs are going to be a recurring theme in this run, where we do bomb triggers to skip a lot of requirements and just jump right into a lot of cutscenes and activate a lot of things without the required items.
Yeah, so you
And
may
we're
not...
going to see it here coming up.
Yeah, like, you normally do need the magic powder in order to get Terran to turn from a raccoon back into a human, so you can pass through the forest. But powdering him is actually really slow because he bounces all over the screen. So bomb triggering, even though we have powder, is still faster.
So typically the game only lets you have a single bomb on screen at any given time, and when you transition between screens, the previous items on the last screen just deload. But if you're right on the transition, like right on the edge of a screen, you can actually place bombs on back-to-back frames between the two screens and place a second bomb before the first bomb is deloaded. And for whatever reason, it overwrites like a sprite state for an incorrect sprite on the new screen, which kind of activates Terran in that case, and we'll see activates a few other sprites in a few other locations later on.
And shoutouts to Link's noodle arms, naming courtesy of Matt. You can actually put keys into key blocks from the side or behind as long as you're facing upwards when you push into them. So yeah. And
yeah, it's something like wall clipping, which we're going to see him do a lot in this run, where Link's hitbox is technically smaller than the sprite looks, and if you walk into a wall parallel, you can actually kind of clip into it 2 or 3 pixels more than you're supposed to be able to, which doesn't usually affect things too much, but it does enable a couple cool glitches that we'll see coming up once Matt gets the feather here.
I'd really like a heart.
Well, I was tempted to say that I was gonna say you're taking damage as like a manip just for fun, but no, Matt, the damage is not intentional. Oh, oh my god,
Matt, please play it safe on these.
Oh, I was anyways, but now I'm doubly going to.
Maybe like get that flying heart or take a death after the feather.
Nah, we're going for it.
Yeah, this is fine. Matt's a professional. He's a professional content creator.
A professional entertainer. Uh-oh, hold on.
Almost.
I made a mistake.
So this is actually a pretty tight trick to hit the switch without getting hit by the buzzy beetle.
Those floor switches are really annoying timing-wise. It feels like you have to stand on them for like an unreasonably long time for them to activate.
It's always 1 frame longer than you've been standing on it already.
Yep.
And it doesn't really matter since Matt's at half heart, but the beetles do a full heart of damage.
And then you fall in the pit, which does another one.
Yep.
So we just saw Matt jump right over that key block twice now, actually, and he's gonna do this again, jumping over those blocks. Those were super jumps, and obviously you're not supposed to be able to jump over solid objects like that. You're not supposed to be able to jump that far. But that's an abuse of the wall clips I mentioned earlier, and also an abuse of the fact that in dungeons, the wall tiles are the exact same as ledge tiles. They're the same tile. It's a matter of what side of it are you on. So by wall clipping more inside that wall than you're supposed to be and facing away from it, the game thinks you're trying to jump through it, over it, whatever, and it activates a jump as if you're jumping off a ledge, which for whatever reason disables your collision and you can jump over obstacles. So in this dungeon, it saves you having to get a key, and saves you a trip around a few screens. Doesn't save a ton of time, but it's the first time you see it, but it allows for some pretty cool sequence breaks in the rest of the run.
If I may mention, this is the worst start that I've had since... God, I did this PB.
I believe it.
Yeah. I don't need convincing.
Even my
It's a marathon.
D-Rust
What do
was
you
better
expect?
than this.
No, but see, it's a good thing. So you've lowered your expectations to the absolute lowest, so now you can just PB.
My expectation was to finish.
Also, just to throw it out there, there is a trick in a game called Super Swimming where you can it's just no clip, so everything in the game becomes a suggestion at that point.
Yeah, it's basically exactly just doing a super jump, the same mechanics, but while you're in a swimming state. So it turns on the no clip for jumping, but it never stops because you never technically land.
Oh, the temptation to do it later.
But it is banned in this category.
Phantom banned.
Well, it was already banned earlier today.
And there's another super jump to get to this heart piece, which you would normally need the power bracelet to pick up those skulls. And fun fact, you can actually bomb trigger. There's certain items like heart pieces that are on the overworld like that. You can actually bomb trigger them, and they'll just warp right to Link's hands. It's about the same time to super jump to it as it is to bomb trigger to it there, though.
And Matt is intentionally skipping this heart piece because, due to the way picking things up works, it moves you down a little bit. So if we pick it up when we're going downward, it saves us just a little bit of time.
It'll save him a frame later, so it's a good thing he saved that time right now by avoiding it.
It's for the kids.
Oh boy. So, the first photograph you get from this guy, he asks you to just stand there and take a picture. And if you say yes, you can just walk up there and it's all good. If you say no several times, he beats the shit out of you.
Yeah, he pummels you into the curtain and then takes a photo.
There are 13 different photos, but these two share the same slot, so you only need 12. So Matt has 2, because we also got 1 from stealing.
Yeah, so these photos are an addition to the DX version for the Game Boy printer that didn't exist in the original Link's Awakening. And they're kind of fun. Obviously, we require them for the 100% category. And yeah, so like Spice said, there's alternates for the first one, so while there's technically 13 photos, you can only get 12 of them in a run. Matt just wasting time for fun, because
it's for the kids, man.
For the kids. And that 7th most of the photos, they're not programmed the greatest. Like, you have to get them at very specific times of the game, and if you miss them, then you miss them for the entire playthrough, and tough luck.
Yeah, it's very clear that they are just hacked onto DX and not really at all intended.
Yeah, a lot of the additions made to the DX version, and especially if you look at the code itself, are literally just tacked onto the back of the original game. Yeah.
I can't wait to fall in this pit again.
To get into the swamp, you would normally need to go all the way around, but there's a trick called flock clipping, where you abuse a property of things like rocks that will pop up a text box on you. And you can use that to move a little bit into that corner, and you can just squeeze right through.
Yeah, so in this case, there's a text box telling you that, wow, these things are heavy, which usually goes away after you get the power bracelet and beat level 2. But yeah, for whatever reason, you move a little bit without collision during the text box, so you can squeeze right in. And that saves a good chunk of time, because otherwise it's like 8 screens around to get in here, or something like that.
One of the other things they'll do that is key blocks if you don't have a key. And that's used in a couple spots to skip small keys that they're too slow to get.
Yep. This dungeon, like Dungeon 1, is pretty... I don't know. There's not a lot of sequence breaking. Well, there's no sequence breaking in this dungeon. The only thing with this dungeon is there's a lot of superfluous keys to get to like things we don't need, like the compass and the map and the owl's beak. So it's more just about like the route is optimized so that we use the keys in the exact places, but there's not a lot of glitching going on. And then, of course, because we stole the bow earlier, it's a very overpowered weapon for much of the game, and it just 2-shots a Hinox there.
2 shots all.
But yeah, it 2-shot Rolling Bones in D1, it 2-shot Hinox there, does a lot of damage.
Are you kidding me?
I could ask you the same thing.
Yeah.
So,
low on arrows now. We carefully plan our arrow route through this game because of how useful the arrows are.
I
He
think
should be
I'm,
fine.
I think
You're
I'm
fine, right?
perfect now. If
Yeah.
not missing one, but I'll just not bomb arrow the pit one.
Yeah, and using too many arrows is never a death sentence. It's usually just you want to be mindful of where you want to cut them later, or maybe try to get extras.
You do have to kill these 3 in a specific order, but the RNG of how the Stalfos moves especially can make it a little bit tricky. And if you kill him by accident with the pot, you'd have to start over.
Yep.
Luckily, Matt's a professional.
Ah. Oh wow, my menu's actually alright for once.
And fun fact, we are actually going to beat this dungeon in one shot in the other more any percent categories of the game. Not real any percent, but the not collectathon categories. We
Bacon.
split this dungeon in half.
And Matt's showing off his mashing skills that we kind of beat into him. Because one of the methods of bomb triggering is by mashing into like pits or anything like that you can just the bombs fall into. And so we made sure Matt was good enough to do that.
And he uses a very unusual technique where he places the controller between his forearms and biceps, and he just crunches really fast to mash. It's amazing.
It's incredible. I've destroyed many a controller with this.
Well, you don't know this. You don't know the limits of your own power.
I have to use Kaioken to mash. So I was scared there for a second, not gonna lie.
So we were memeing through that boss fight, but it's a cool fight because it's one of the longest fights in the game casually, because it's got 2 phases where you have to throw the bottle against the wall 3 times until it breaks, and finally you have to fight the boss through a couple cycles. But again, by abusing wall clipping, you can actually pick up the bottle, clip inside the wall, and then when you throw the bottle, it'll actually be technically inside the wall, and it'll take multiple hits at once instead of just the single hit, and it'll just break instantly. And then through the abuse of bombs and bomb arrows, we can actually do 2 fatal hits before the genie has a chance to get away and respawn.
Also, I do just have to quickly comment, picking up that heart piece, we saved 1 frame by getting on the way back, but because Matt jumped downwards instead of to the left right away, we threw away 1 frame and more.
Oh no, I was trying to skip it again.
You make me so sad.
Make me sad.
So Matt getting the first capacity upgrade, each time you talk to this guy, you'll have to say yes that you're ready to receive it, and then he'll ask you what you want to upgrade, and you can say no. The first thing is powder, so you do want to say no, because screw powder. And so you'll get the bomb capacity upgrade first. So Matt now has 60 bombs. He's totally fine on bomb count unless he does something like horrendously
Stupid?
like trendy game bad.
Oh, that trendy game wasn't that bad.
Yeah, you only missed it once.
Yeah, I was only 20 seconds behind a terrible start to the run anyways.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very nice because when you do get the capacity upgrades, the refill makes it much easier to plan out our bomb and arrow usage in this route compared to other routes. Or other categories, I mean.
Yeah, you only really need to plan bombs up till this point, which is totally trivial. And arrows until just after Dungeon 3?
Dungeon 4.
Yeah, I don't know how it
remember.
works. I'm just picking numbers.
But yeah, just to clarify that those are a requirement of the 100% category. There are 3 capacity upgrades in this game, and it's just the 3 that Spice mentioned: the powder, the bombs, and the arrows.
Okay, now we're
of
definitely good on arrows.
And then there are the item upgrades: sword, shield, and bracelet, which are required.
Yep.
And the tunic also, for people who are unfamiliar with the color.
And even though your inventory would be full without it, we also require getting the boomerang, as it's a separate side quest that replaces one of your items. You have a choice of a few different items you can trade in into your inventory for the boomerang, but for the run we give up the shovel. Which is actually why you saw Matt go to the graveyard and dig up a seashell. There's a few different seashell spots where we dig up with the shovel. And we try to get those out of the way early on so that we can give up the shovel for the boomerang and not regret it.
I hate that one. I hate that man.
Or you can just give up your feather. Like, jumping is kind of... It's just a suggestion. It's not required to beat anything in the game, I think.
Yeah, and it's not very useful for us in the speedruns either. So.
What's going on?
So Matt is visiting the Seashell Mansion, where we will actually get the level 2 sword later on in the game with 20 seashells, but if you show up with exactly 5, and again, if you have exactly 10 seashells, you can get 2 bonus seashells at the mansion. And the 100% category, we've routed it out such that we have that amount of seashells at the times that we happen to be walking by the mansion. That makes them 2 of the quickest seashells we can get.
Also, like how we say, we routed it as if Sagaz didn't come by the 1 year for the tournament and be like, hey guys, I have a strange idea. And just...
I use the royal we when I don't remember.
We as a community, not as us.
Yeah, not the 3 of us talking here, that's for sure.
I've made very little contributions to this game.
So I'm behind on the take here, but Matt just... you're supposed to go to Gauntlet Castle and collect 5 golden leaves, and then Richard will let you in here. And Matt's actually going the back way, like the wrong way through this cave. Normally this is the way you would get into that maze. But by jumping on a pit and pause buffering in this game basically only allows a single frame to pass at a given time. And there are certain things that need more than a frame to happen. So for example, if you keep pause buffering, you will never fall in a pit because it takes more than a single frame for him to fall, to activate that fall animation. So he just buffered until he got the fall sound, until the fall had kind of activated. But by that point, he was at the bottom of the screen. The fall pushed him down a few pixels until he was no longer on the pit, and then he was able to transition down and fall into the maze. So...
And similarly, in the same way that pause buffering can be used on water, as long as you don't have flippers, and you can just jump off the surface of water or transition, even though you're not, swimming properly.
Yeah, and that's what he used there to get to that island.
That Stalfos absolutely got hit by that bomb and didn't take damage.
Sure.
And that's one of those differences between this game and the original, is that you can't do those single frame pause buffers with the pause menu in the original Link's Awakening, so there's a lot of strategies and things like that you can't do.
Mm-hmm. So Matt is killing a bunch of extra stuff here because he wants to get one of the 2 droppable upgrades. There's the acorn, which he absolutely does not want. And the one he does want is the Pizza of Powder. Pizza of Power?
Pizza of Powder. I'm not gonna let you live that one down.
Sorry.
Oh, what's going on?
There's too much powder in this run, isn't there, Matt?
Oh, please don't grab that acorn, Matt.
That's fine. Everything is fine.
So you can only have one of those 2 things activated at the same time. So he wants the Piece of Power because it boosts his movement speed, it boosts his pickup speed if he picks up objects, and it increases his damage, which is huge for this boss coming up. But the acorn does the opposite, where it boosts your defense instead, which is useless for us, we don't care. So he picked up the Piece of Power first. If he accidentally picks up the acorn, it would overwrite it, and he'd be screwed.
Well, at least I didn't miss it by 1 like I always do. Which is why I killed those 2 Stalfos in here.
Well, and actually, we're coming up on the second time around on Dong Skip, where we skip the Dodongos. And it's a really cool skip where you do a super jump into a spin, you clink off the Dodongo, it sends you off perpendicular from your jump angle, and you just skip right over. And then to get into the staircase there, he did a flop clip again like he did getting into the swamp, but instead, like Spice mentioned earlier, by having no keys, you get a text that says, hey, you don't have any keys, and he gets into the staircase. So he was able to skip 2 keys that otherwise you'd have to go all across the dungeon to find. So this dungeon's a lot quicker than it used to be back in the day.
Yeah, I think Dodongo skip saves 20-ish seconds.
Oh, this is gonna be bad.
Yeah, I think so. 20-30 seconds, something like that.
So the fight normally looks cleaner than that, but that's okay.
We live,
as long as
that's
we don't
the
die.
important part.
Also, shoutouts. I discovered yesterday that you can kill one of the eyes with 1 slash if you have the level 2 sword, and you hit it with your sword and the beam. Pretty cool.
Crazy stuff.
Something that'll never happen in the base game, but
Never, ever.
Right. I mean, it could. if you
I
just
guess
go
I could,
seashell farming. Matt?
but that'd be breaking the rules.
What? I'm not farming anything. Does a Stardew?
So this is the owl. He's very talkative.
Food.
Once he goes away, we'll go get a seashell. As we mentioned, there are a few that are hidden underground. I think this is the second last one.
Yeah, there's one more underground after this.
Yeah. And Matt bombed open this cave earlier, talking to these obstacles, which you could in theory do a flock clip with them, but there's nothing useful you can actually do with that. And we get this heart piece that nobody found as a kid because you're just... Did you just waste another arrow?
No, it was a bomb.
Okay, good.
I saw the bomb place, don't worry.
Yeah, so to bring up your save quit menu, you have to hit A, B, start, and select. And as you can imagine, it's possible to hit buttons before that is recognized.
Should have gotten him chased by bees now that I think about it.
Yeah.
What
So
missed
there's a couple
opportunity.
things happening there where we haven't been doing the trading quest at all to this point. Matt did not pick up the Yoshi doll, did not get the bow, the dog food, the bananas, or anything. But the game doesn't actually check. So the check for Terran to show up there realistically should be that do you have the stick or not? But because you should have had to have the stick by getting to Gauntlet Castle to get the key to beat Dungeon 3 in the first place, the game just assumes that if you've beaten Dungeon 3, that you must have the stick. So Matt just got the honey from Terran for free, and even though it's a fun little cutscene, Matt did a little bit of save and quit buffering there to save and quit and skip the cutscene altogether.
I'm very sad that I skipped it now, actually. We gotta restart and do it all over again. We still got that time in the estimate, right?
Well, your estimate was pretty generous.
Jesus Christ.
Hey, damage boost. It was okay.
Ooh, look at all these damage boosts, baby!
Matt's just taking some extra damage to make sure the acorn doesn't drop again, because it drops every 12 kills that you haven't taken damage, which is kind of backwards, because if you're taking damage, you'd think you'd want that.
Oh, thank you.
But...
Well, Spice is memeing about the acorn, but Matt does... Well, I wouldn't say he was necessarily trying there, but we do try to take damage around the split.
No, that's OoB. Any percent.
Well, do we have a heal between now and then? Am I totally lost?
Yeah, we will have Fish the Pond. You're thinking any percent where we'd go to the desert now.
I am. I absolutely am.
Yep.
So Matt's trying to avoid acorn.
Yeah,
that's
that's
100%. We have to go on a date with Marin, which requires doing a little bit of the trading sequence to get the pineapple.
an awful
And now that we have that, the bear has told us, oh well, Marin likes to go hang out at the beach. So now that we know that, she can actually be there. But first, we're going to collect a couple things. We're going to get the ocarina, and then do probably the best minigame in the game.
And actually, we don't require collecting all of the items in the trading sequence as per 100% definition. We just require that you have the final item in the trading sequence and you get the boomerang with it. So because we don't require getting every single item in the trade sequence, we could, the only reason we're getting the pineapple up to this point is so that we can go on the date with Marin, because you need to go on that date to get, 3 of the photos?
Yeah. Alright, how are we gonna mess up fishing?
Well, you might accidentally get all the fish.
I think you're going to pull the lure in too soon and you're not going to catch the lunker.
Or the one on the left is going to see it. Oh,
that was actually really good.
So, that fish that Matt just caught has a piece of heart in its stomach. But the way that we route it, we've just actually completed a container, and it skips over the entire, text boxes of saying, hey, you've completed it. So it's it's a really clever like routing thing that we just skip a little bit of time by having that right there. And this cutscene has RNG, as people always comment on. Bow Wow can decide to go like really far left and just kind of chill there, or you can come back really quickly.
Yeah, so it's really stupid, but you could actually wait different amounts of time for that cutscene.
Another similar thing where that happens is during the little part where the bar goes up in the Seashell Mansion. So if you heard me exclaim, "What was that?" it came to a full stop for about a second, and I don't know why.
Oh, it's fine.
Oh yeah, everything's
It
fine.
just knows you're going too fast. It needs you to chill out.
You say that, but my currently my splits picture is no fun allowed, so I think the game understands.
So, more things that you never found as a kid: Seashell's hidden injuries, which you have to bunk.
Yeah, there's a lot of really stupid things in this game, like heart pieces and stuff that are just really difficult to find casually.
And actually, as a bonus side, you have to bunk from the side or the bottom. If you come from the top and bunk it on that side, as like you would because you're coming from the top, it won't spawn. Matt touching the ocean.
I'm trying to dive into the ocean to get away from her.
There's not really anything going on in this cutscene, just talking to Marin, and that's all that's going on. Nothing else. Just some birds in the background that move predictably.
And she tells you all about how she wants to be a seagull, the worst bird.
No, grackles are the worst bird, followed by pigeons, then seagulls. Seagulls are at least brave enough to steal your food from your face, not when you turn around.
So yeah, the seagulls move randomly, based on the RNG of the game. You're welcome, Matt.
Should have
And
heard
Cravone,
me
I know
gritting
you're
my
listening.
teeth.
Cravone's always listening. So this is the
first. Yeah.
this is the first of our photos with Marin where she just demolishes Link.
I'll go back and I'll look at that photo for you all later, because it's actually a very funny photo.
And photo 2, we just go out to this, innocuous tile on the map. And she wants to talk to you and make you look like a frog.
It actually looks better in the photo.
Yeah, the photos do look generally a lot better than the in-game cutscene. So having collected that, we're gonna go hang out by the weather vane that has no other names.
No, you can call it what it's actually called. That's a
It's
word. It's not a...
called the weathercock.
Yeah. That's an actual word.
That's what it's called in the manual, for Link to the Past as well.
That's what it's called in real life.
And
Terran's gonna get in between us.
He's in front of the weathercock, so he's...
Alright, now you're just taking it too far.
Yes. So anyway, with that, we have collected all 3 photographs that we need Marin for. So now we're going to actually play the game.
Yeah, this is a really long section. It's probably about a 10 or 11 minute split between the D3 and D4, where it's a break from the normal run.
Yeah. So now we're back to actually go to the desert. In the any % categories, we don't have Marin, so we do a bomb trigger here. And in fact, we're still going to do that because even though we can just talk to the walrus, if you do that, it's slow because Marin has to walk all the way from the right side of the screen to the left. And this way she walks just, a few pixels, and it's a teeny bit faster.
Yeah, so in this category it's not required, but it's, just a bit faster.
And as Spearster had kind of mentioned, because he forgot what category we're doing, in other categories where you don't have Marin, if you do this, your controls actually lock up, and you can only restore them by turning off your game, but that's bad, because you lose your progress, dying, or going into a cave or something like that. So in any % no OoB, we die to a particular, generally the cactus or something in the desert. But here we don't need to because we have Marin.
Oh, mashing, huh?
You wasted one bomb.
I did.
Probably.
I wasted another one.
Oh my god. Luckily, Matt has so many bombs that it's not really worth worrying about.
Look, I'm just making a tribute to the goddess of explosions. It's fine. Everything's fine.
So, having made tribute to the goddess of explosions, Matt's now going to make tribute to the goddess of sand trap pits by feeding her a couple of arrows, and she'll be kind enough to just give him a key.
Nothing else is in here.
Goddesses are kind of fickle. And now he feeds himself to the pit.
So that is a mini boss battle where you're supposed to fight Landmolus to get the angler key. But for whatever reason, you can't hit him unless he's outside of the sand. But when you first enter that screen, his hitbox is just totally active for some reason. So 2 quick arrows before they spawn, and you get the key.
It's also worth noting, I haven't been able to skip the text box until this run. So there's good and bad
There you go.
in this run.
And that hard piece he got in the cave there is another one of those just really bullshit ones. It's just a single room with a normal looking wall that you just had to try to explode.
There's actually a hint for that one. Apparently, if you magic powder the skeletons in the desert, they'll, like, inform you of something, from what I've heard.
But does
Well, I
anyone
mean-
inform you that you can powder the skeletons?
God, no. You
I
just
mean, there's
expected to
also-
pour powder on everything.
Yeah, you can also just use your sword on, like, if you hold out your sword and just walk into walls, you can hear a hollow clink at walls you can bomb, which you can use in approximately, like, 2 spots in the game, and we've seen both of them already. Everything else is marked with cracks in the wall.
I'm pretty sure as a kid I clinked every single wall and still missed those heart pieces.
It's a weird game that we all play.
Yep. This game is definitely a product of its time and the limitations of the Game Boy.
But that's what gives it its charm, right?
Well, and it's what gives us our awesome glitches.
And music, honestly.
I mean, you say the glitches, but even the remake of Link's Awakening has a bunch of glitches.
But they're not as... But we could have better glitches in the remake.
Yeah, no, there's no super jump, there's no bomb trigger, there's no rooster skip.
And the feather works wrong.
The feather is horrible. Ow, thank you.
So, we collected all the things we need to do from over by Animal Village, and so we're just gonna go up to D4, and Matt is trying to do a trick that's actually quite tight, where you
Only
bonk off the
once.
rock, and you use the knockback from bonking to go across the pit. But
Alas,
it is pretty tight.
I am not French enough to do the French bonks.
Well, you also weren't clipped.
Yeah, it happens.
Remember, kids, don't try to do things you've only seen in runs. Practice it first.
Ow. What if I've seen it in my run, Spice? What if
Hey,
I've
Spice,
done it?
If he forgot to go back and unlock the dungeon, would you have told him?
No, not a chance. So that was actually a semi-recent reroute where, like, normally you just come right over here and not go into the cave to open up the dungeon, then you'd run back. But it's a little bit faster to go into the cave to save your like respawn point, open up the dungeon and save and quit back to it. But that means sometimes old habits die hard, and you go in the cave and you just go into the mountains and don't open anything up.
Well, yeah, and even without the old muscle memory, it's still just easy to, you're reading chat or you're not really that focused. You walk into the cave and you just keep walking.
This part of the game sort of starts to blend.
Yeah, well, we do see this cave times in the run, so...
Doing better things, Spice. Don't worry.
So Matt just did a trick called not doing obstacle skip because he's a... Okay,
A wee baby.
You can do a trick called obstacle skip that saves, like, what, quarter of a second, half a second or something like that?
Oh, that's bad. I'm just gonna drown. I'm gonna drown again. I'm gonna drown
And
again.
in this game, you don't take damage from drowning, which is just fantastic.
There we go.
It's PhantomMat-tastic.
Thank you.
And I will just make note, for anyone who did see Glyph DX's run at GDQ, he did a trick here called early rooster skip. Matt is not going to do that, he's going to do normal rooster skip later on.
I know how to do early rooster skip, I don't like it. I never have, I never will.
Yeah, I can respect that.
And the glowing butt sword.
Hmm.
And the mouse is just so appalled that he's backing away to his demise.
Yep,
No!
so the
No,
mouse,
you're a Hylian, you're not supposed to have a tail.
the mouse has canonically just died.
Yep.
We'll be seeing how the rest of that story plays out later on.
No more photos.
And we're finally in the next dungeon.
Ooh, only a minute behind.
Total or on that split?
Total.
Oh, that's not too bad.
I could still PB, guys.
No. Oh my god. The problem with Matt is he can do things pretty well, but not consistently.
Well, and the amount, like, he can do everything in the run well, but he can only do like 1 or 2 things well per run.
Example, that. Oh, wow.
So Matt has a PB that like severely underestimates his actual level of skill at this game, but unfortunately he probably will never beat it.
Nope, too inconsistent.
Yeah, as anyone who knows Matt knows, he's too concerned about content and like entertaining people rather than actually caring about playing well.
I blame Rish.
Dude, this was well before you got into Battle Network.
Nope, I just blame him anyways. It's his fault. Content.
So anyway, we've collected 1 flipper
Hey, I'm calling you out, Pancake Boy.
to complement our 1 boot. So now we can swim with 1 foot and run with the other.
Well, he did a couple sequence breaks in this dungeon. He by jumping perpendicular on that cross pit, you're not supposed to do that, but it's very easy to do. You skip a whole section around the dungeon, where I think you require 2 keys to get through. And by Jesus jumping across that water pit to get to the flipper, he got to the flipper the back way and avoided having to fight a mini boss called Q-Ball that we will see later on in a different dungeon. And a couple more sequence breaks there. That awesome P-Hat Clink super jump where he gets up over that ledge to the Nightmare Key, skipping a whole underground section. And then
also that awesome just jumping diagonally pit.
Yeah,
because the designers just didn't really think.
Yeah, nobody went there and jumped diagonally to think that, oh, maybe people could sequence break that. And funny enough, in the Switch remake, they put some extra pots there to prevent you from jumping, but you can just easily throw a bomb and blow them up.
There we go.
And that boss is very easy. What Matt did there is he got a sword charge going before he entered the fight and immediately released it, and then threw 2 bomb arrows straight down, and that was it.
Depth charges work fairly well on fish.
Yep. And now that boss can kind of get out of hand if you somehow miss the spin slash, or you don't have enough bombs or something like, or arrows.
Or if you like accidentally shoot a bomb arrow sideways, then you just lay a bomb on its own, and you accidentally pick it up, and then you're trying to shoot bomb arrows downward.
And then you hook shot.
This is a recurring theme for anybody who doesn't know. I find new and inventive ways of ruining the run.
And we're just talking to Mamba right now and getting the second song of the game. Oh.
The song's done? Well, I guess I gotta get out of here now.
And while we already have the first song from Marin that we got in Animal Village, it's not too useful of a song. It is basically a key that we'll use later. Or, we actually won't use it later. But casually, you would use it later to open the egg. But the second song is actually very useful. In dungeons, you can use it to warp to the beginning, like the mirror in A Link to the Past. And if you use it on the overworld, you'll actually warp back to what's called Mambo's Pond. It's more of a puddle by the Witch's Hut. And we don't actually use the dungeon warp feature in this category because we're allowed to save and quit, so we do that. But we do use the overworld warp a couple times in the run.
Alright, this is the worst part of the run.
Yep, and now we've got the ghost.
Wait, no, never mind. For some reason, I'm thinking you get a photograph now, but that's next time.
No, it's this pass. You get one here.
No, but the Zora, because we
Oh,
get the lens.
I'm gonna remember
Shows
to
what my
grab
memory of this category is.
I'm gonna remember to grab this seashell, because I finished a run without getting this.
So this ghost is really annoying, and he starts following you around after you've beaten Dungeon 4, and only after you've gone into the bottom half of the overworld. And he exists solely to prevent you from going into the next dungeon, or really any other dungeon after this point. And in most other categories, we avoid the ghost by splitting Dungeon 4 in two, where we go and get the flippers, and then we'll beat Dungeon 2 later on in the run. Because the ghost side quest involves taking him to the house by the bay, taking him to his grave, and a whole bunch of cutscenes and everything, and it wastes a lot of time. But because the end of the side quest gives you a photo with the ghost, we have to do it at 100%.
Oh!
Oh wow. So what Matt just did there was pulling up his save quit menu at a specific time during that cutscene, and it's actually pretty tight to do it that accurately because you only had to buffer 2 frames.
And here's Zora Bump.
So right here's where Matt's gonna super swim.
Don't tempt me.
While he's doing that, another quick donation, $40 from Rish. I promised I would donate $20 per death in my Battle Network 6 run and simply forgot until now. Good luck to PhantomMat and the rest of the runners today.
Mm.
And right after you shit-talked him.
Wow.
He deserved
Thanks,
it.
Matt.
Off mic, of course.
Oh, yes.
But so, getting across that gap there, normally that would require the hook shot, and you get the hook shot in Dungeon 5. But by doing that sequence of buffering, to bump his shield off the Zora's hitbox, to get into a position that he could then super jump across the gap, he was able to get the lens early. And the reason we want to get the lens before Dungeon 5 is because we can get the boomerang before Dungeon 5, and we'll see the boomerang lets us get the hook shot early and skip a lot of that dungeon.
And resuming the chronicles of Photo Mouse, the fisherman has dredged up the mouse's corpse.
Yeah, it washed down from Tal Heights and has made its way down to Martha's Bay.
Yep.
All river sources go down to Martha's Bay. All drains out of the ocean.
And I think I was talking about something else when he was doing it, but when we first came to the bay, Matt skipped a huge chunk of the trade sequence yet again by going to the fisherman, and for whatever reason, there's a tile under the bridge there in that 2D section that acts like a pit for items, only for items. So he was able to drop 2 bombs into it and bomb trigger the fisherman and get the mermaid's
bikini.
Is
or
it
bra.
this? It's
Yes,
either
or
the
bra.
necklace or the bra.
In
depending on whether-
Japanese, it's the bra. In English, it's the bikini.
Even in DX?
It's the... Yeah.
Okay. So
It's the
yes,
bra
you
then.
dredged up the bra, you give the bra to the mermaid gives you a scale, and then you just beeline it right to the lens. And then that house is the first checkpoint on the ghost side quest that Matt has now checked off.
Well, I mean, it's kind of the only checkpoint.
That's 2.
Well, it's the only place you have to take it, apart from the end.
Yeah, and then, there's like the unspoken rule 3 where it's like, don't go to a dungeon.
Yeah, the checkpoint of don't go to this checkpoint.
Yeah, don't do anything else.
Don't pass go,
so-
don't collect $200. There's
So
the
Matt
ghost
having
house.
gotten the final use of his shovel by trading it in for something that's actually good.
Well, the shovel's good. It has its purposes. Just none that I
has-
need.
Yeah.
I've already dug my own grave.
And the boomerang is really cool. It's kind of inconsistent because there's certain enemies that it doesn't affect, but for 80% of enemies, it is the most powerful weapon. It can break bushes like you see there, like the sword can. It's a bit unusual because when you throw the boomerang, it rotates around on the screen, and the orientation of the boomerang actually affects its hitbox. So as you can see there a few times, Matt was just kind of spamming the boomerang, trying to get it to break a bush, and it took a few tries just because the RNG of the rotation of the boomerang wasn't right. So there's a few little frustrations like that, but otherwise it's a very powerful, very cool weapon.
Very consistent weapon.
Very consistent. Very consistently inconsistent.
Now we're going to get the second resource upgrade, which is hopefully going to be arrows.
Hopefully.
What do you mean? I grabbed
Matt
powder
has
first.
a no to the powder again.
Very good.
He successfully said no.
One of these days, I'm just gonna do my powder first route. Just out of nowhere, and everyone's gonna ask what happened.
Yeah, Matt is the only person who's actually routed out 100%, getting the powder first, just for the meme.
Hasn't? I feel like Dragon's probably got a head route for that.
Well, Dragon's got a head route for everything.
Yeah.
Real quick, we got a couple of donations. A $5 donation train started by Cookie Monster 90, Choo Choo. Followed up by a $10 from Rawlsy. This is for 2 people riding a $5 hype train. Let's go!
Hey,
Choo-choo.
Everyone helped donate to Child's Play. Good causes. Help those kids, man.
So we can finally say goodbye to the ghost, but we have to say hello to the owl again, unfortunately.
And then, just as soon as we've said goodbye, we say hello again. And this cutscene actually features 2 ghosts. The ghost we just turned in will show up in the photograph, and the ghost of the photographer is here to capture it.
Because as we all know, he died in the mountains.
Mm-hmm. That is a undead mouse wandering through a graveyard.
Now we're going to be seeing here another fantastic property of the boomerang hitboxes. They are kind of just like, you know, they're whatever.
So the hitbox of the boomerang is like higher than the sprite itself, and it also spawns higher kind of than Link is. So we use that to our advantage a few times to get past what you think it would normally clink off of.
Also, the sideways pushes on these tombstones are a little bit messed up. But if you do them in the correct order and directions, then you get to come into the color dungeon, where there's not really any color puzzles, unfortunately. It's just things that are in color.
Yeah, so this was tacked on to DX specifically, and we're going to come here because we have to collect an upgraded tunic. It doesn't matter which upgrade we get, either the blue or the red, we just have to get one of the upgrades.
But if anyone in chat tells Matt to get the red tunic, he probably will. Just saying.
Probably
I want
won't.
to get the blue tunic. Let's represent blue tunic. So the tunics in this, again, because because the DX port was pretty lazy port, the blue and red tunics are just the exact same effects that you get from the Piece of Power and the Acorn.
Except for you do not get the speed boost associated with the Piece of Power.
Yeah, you don't get the speed boost for picking up or walking, but the red tunic doubles your damage and gives you the same knockback that the Piece of Power does, and the blue tunic doubles your, or I guess halves the damage you take the way the Acorn does.
It's worth noting that Rish told me to get blue tunic, so joke's on you, I want a blue tunic anyways. Thank you for telling me to do that.
For a long time, we used to get the red tunic because obviously double damage is really good, and sometimes the knockback can be helpful. But a recent reroute last year had us getting the level 2 sword much earlier in the run. So because we were getting double damage from the sword, we no longer needed the double damage from the red tunic the same way.
Did you save?
Yeah.
Yeah, you saved.
Oh, okay, my stream must have lagged like a tiny bit.
And the blue tunic will make a couple boss fights easier later on. But what Matt did just here is, again, poorly coded dungeon. These rupees aren't supposed to respawn, but if you do a hard reset of your console, it clears the SRAM. Or sorry, it just clears the RAM. And that room state is not stored in your save RAM at all. So just clearing the console memory is enough to have that room respawn. And we need all these rupees to buy the third and final song for the ocarina later. We used to actually open a ton of chests around the game to get enough rupees before we realized that we could just farm that room over and over again.
Yeah, we used to actually get it after D5, wasn't it?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
there's a 200 rupee chest in D5 and a couple 50 rupee chests around like the
Mm.
beach and stuff.
We get 2 donations real quick relating to what's going on. Corin Catnip, $10, says always get Glod's Mat. And $20 from Balthazar saying get Red Tunic, do it, you won't.
Well, that's
No, he won't.
unfortunate to hear.
Big thank yous to Corin, though. Corin is a valued member of the community who just hangs out but doesn't actually speedrun.
Yeah, he's like the kid at the skate park who like he's always there but he never boards.
Except we like him.
That's very true.
Come on. Please? Thank you.
This boss can... This isn't just Matt being Matt, this boss can be really annoying because his projectiles, as well as the stealth bosses they shoots out, can block your arrows.
Well, unfortunately, Rish did say take Blue Tunic first, so...
That's too bad. I know you're really hoping for red.
Yeah, I really wanted to get power, guys.
Yeah, like as we were mentioning with the with the red tunic, you get the attack effects of the piece of power, which includes a knockback that is annoying as hell for certain bosses, including the Dungeon 5 one. So, with getting the tunic before Dungeon 5 in this current route, it just makes so much more sense to get blue. And shoutouts to yet another thing that you never found as a kid.
Seashells
Or
and
tree shells.
Hell yeah, trees.
Tree shell or seashell?
Tree shells.
By the seashore?
No, there are only 2 shells and trees.
No, by the tree shore.
So this is the Signpost Maze, which is the requirement to see Mamu.
Yep, there it is.
And
I mean, good try, Matt.
Another recurring theme.
so this is another spot that you'd normally need the hookshot from D5 to get to, but a nice little dash jump there, and you can actually just get right to it.
Yeah, there are a couple different ways you can do that, but that jump is the fastest.
Yeah. Because you could technically do a, buffering your pause menu like we did with Villa Skip again, but that would take just a very long time.
Also, while we have time, I do want to mention that you can also use the mushroom to do pit buffering like that, and it's awesome, but you need powder for so much of this run that you just can't do it, as the two occupy the same slot.
Yeah, and we've especially tried to find a way to use mushroom in this run because we could make use of it, but unfortunately the last upgrade we get is powder. Or actually, that's irrelevant. The last upgrade we get is in the mountains near D8, and you need the powder to activate the Mad Batter to give you the upgrade, so there's really no way around.
Can you say yes, please?
It's also worth noting, people who are photosensitive, please avert your eyes.
Are you streaming in 60 or 30?
I'm streaming in 60.
Okay. Well, maybe knock it down to 30.
But yeah, photosensitive, please look away. And if your ears are sensitive to terrible music, also close them.
What a lovely addition to the game.
Okay, like what the hell? We talked over best song and we're just letting this one play out.
I don't have anything to talk about.
There's nothing to say.
God damn it. Well, now we've filled the ocarina up, I guess.
So yeah, that's the third and final song for the ocarina. So now we can, assuming Matt's not gonna do any glitch using it, we can basically forget it exists.
I'm not going to be doing that glitch.
Yeah, it is a bit of a shame that we don't use the ocarina as much as we used to. Like, we collect it because the category requires it, but we don't actually make too much use of it anymore.
Yeah, so during this long swim, do we have any donations? This is just nothing but swimming.
Nothing super recent, but I will go into some of the stuff I missed at the beginning. We still have some donations needed for Hollow Knight Extra Boss Forgotten Champion. It is just over $100 away from being triggered. And we still have a bid war for the final party member of Earthbound. Bubble Monkey is in the lead, and the dog is in second place currently right now. So get those donations in if you want to affect the outcome of those.
Nice. Now that we've gotten our cardio in, gone and refilled our water bottles, now time for the last thing you missed as a kid.
I'll have you know I did find this as a kid.
I don't believe
So,
you.
the final chapter of the PhantomMat's Chronicle, his ghost, once again showing up to, just, get those last regrets out of the way. And now that he's completed the last photograph, the ghost can, pass on peacefully.
We did it. We're exorcists, everybody.
Yeah, I don't know. The game is just poorly coded in that room, and even though the palettes are loaded properly for the I called it the ghost almost for the mouse. Even though it's loaded properly, they still colored in white.
Yeah, they applied the wrong palette to that sprite, even though the mouse's proper palette is loaded.
So, Armos Maze, if you have played this if you played the original on Game Boy, you will remember this being a laggy hell. Luckily, the Game Boy Color's double speed processor handles it a bit better.
Well, to be fair to the original, it's much laggier in the speedruns because we bring Bow Wow through here.
Yeah.
It's not just the console's fault. We're at fault too.
Well, it's just the number of things on screen.
Yeah.
It's not its fault, it's just it happens.
Now let's watch this fail.
So here is the Armos statue. It can be a tough fight. It does, I think, a heart or a heart and a half damage if you get hit. And he'll also stun you like that if you are not in the air.
Safety.
But luckily, Matt's a professional.
So you can normally, if everything goes perfectly, you can just keep dashing and bouncing off the wall to avoid getting stunned, and then he's done. It looks like Matt missed the last hit, but he was still able to recover nicely and, again, avoid being stunned too many times.
Also, yeah, if you clip the top walls in this section, you can actually just walk past statues. Obviously, you can't do it for that one, but Matt will be doing it here.
Hopefully.
No, he didn't.
Mm-mm.
Because he was too low.
Well, and that Armos statue where he took damage, he actually took damage from the green Zol, because they only do a half heart damage instead of a full 2 hearts. So I think it's 2 hearts. Maybe it's a heart and a half.
I never remember that you're supposed to equip Boomerang there.
I think it's different in different versions or languages or something like that. Or maybe in the original. Which I don't really play enough of to know.
So that was actually, Matt tried to use the boomerang to kill the Armos Knight, and one of those quirks of the boomerang where some enemies the boomerang will stun. On the Armos Knight, it did not.
The Boomerang is very finicky.
Yeah. But luckily, even though he's low on health, going into D6 here, kind of a reminder for him, there is an easy health pickup if you use the boomerang on the anti-fairy.
I knew that.
Just making sure, We don't want too much content. Luckily the floor here just kind of like shows you that there's a wall that you can bomb through. And Matt using clever bomb placement to hit a few enemies at a time.
And this underground section, you can get through just by holding up left the entire way. Even if you get hit, you just keep holding up left and you will never fall. It's kind of amazing. And here's the most useless item in the game, the level 2 bracelet, which just lets you lift slightly bigger rocks that are only in this dungeon.
Like this.
And we will use that once?
Not twice.
once.
After this, is it only once?
It's only one.
It's just the one in the next room, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I picked up the extra one. Nah,
Unless Matt decides to backtrack for some reason.
I might throw 2 of them just for fun, but you know.
yeah, I'd throw 2. There's the feather.
So this room for Wizrobe spawn in line. If you place a bomb properly and hit one of them into it, you can kill all 4 at once. It's very, very nice when it works out. If anyone saw, again, going back to Cliff DX's run at GDQ recently, he had the red tunic, which has the knockback, and made that trick a hell of a lot tougher, because you need to actually properly time your slash. That's another reason why people prefer blue tunic, because you can just hit it and it stops, like, in range of the thing.
Yeah, the knockback from the red tunic more often than not just gets in the way of, you know, strats that we have, and coming up in D5, the red tunic also makes that boss more difficult, but we can talk about that then.
So the super jump Matt just did, it's a fairly tight one, because there's, I think, 3 vertical pixels that works on.
Yeah, 3 pixels.
And if you don't do it properly, you can just get stuck in a wall.
I was wondering, why did I get hit by those swamps? Oh wait, I didn't do the equip after that.
Here's horse heads. They are each a 50-50 of landing upright, and you need them to both do so in a single attempt.
5.
Yeah, 5's pretty good.
5 is, you know, within average.
Yeah, because if we at least trust the RNG, then 4 would be average, and the world record is 34.
It's not healthy, those horse heads. Akin to gambling, some might say.
I think speedrunning is like gambling anyway.
So I think Astro had said that she got a better world record on horse heads, but it wasn't recorded.
There better be an air quotes around that better.
Bigger.
There needs to be an asterisk.
Also,
Astro is
Shadow making this guy look like Hitler. So yeah, as we mentioned, there's some spots where hitboxes load in before the object or enemy is actually active. So we abuse that by hitting it with 3 bombs before it spawns. And once it does, so you can't hit it while it's not showing.
And it's a crazy oversight too, because the boss only takes 5 bombs to kill, so getting 3 before it even starts attacking you is huge.
Amazingly, we saved time there.
And we just got the most important instrument in the orchestra. The triangle.
I got a couple donations there. An anonymous $4.99 saying it was driving me nuts being so close to 52.50 for so long. And a $20 from Angry Cow. Moo, Matt is a professional. At what? We are still figuring that out.
Yeah,
Thank you very much,
that's
Cal.
accurate, Cal.
Matt's a professional bartender and monster hunter and possibly other things.
Lawyer.
Lawyer too, yeah.
Detective.
He's a professional Matt.
Professional mob gangster.
Oh, thank God.
Mob Gangster? What game did I play for that?
Yakuza?
Oh yeah!
Oh yeah!
No, he's not in the Yakuza anymore. He's retired.
He's also a professional elephant, as you can tell by his amazing memory.
That's a name I recognize there. Yep.
So I'm always a little terrified, especially when it's Matt, and especially when it's a marathon, that he's going to have forgotten a seashell somewhere.
Oh, you mean like I did the other run?
Yep.
Yeah, but we've been watching the entire time. It's fine.
And we've been paying extremely close attention, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's not like I'd ever miss a seashell like in a tournament race or anything like that.
No, not at all.
And then drop out of the tournament as a result.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Or get eliminated, I mean. So now we're finally going to Dungeon 5 after a ton of side questing and a couple out-of-order dungeons, or I guess just D6.
I think the joke I made last year was we definitely know how to count in this community.
Yeah. We do 1, 2, 3 okay, but then we sort of we lose it from there.
Numbers
Yeah,
are
so
hard,
we
okay?
categories. So anyway, I'm gonna just start explaining. As we kind of alluded to earlier, getting the boomerang before D5 means we can do some really cool stuff. One of those is getting the hook shot without having to fight Master Stalfos 4 times, because that's just unnecessary. Because basically how the game is programmed, if there's like a special drop in a room, it checks like a flag to see what that item is supposed to be. In 90% of rooms, 99 even, like, it's a key.
Well, can I jump in?
Yeah?
There is only small keys. So if a room is going to drop something, it's a small key. But if you're in that Master Stalfos 4 room where Matt just got that hookshot, there's a special check in that room to say, are you in this room? If yes, now the small key is a hookshot. So what Matt did there is he spawned the small key in the other room, got into a very specific position, and dragged the small key just very briefly into the next room with the boomerang. And because that in that room, small keys are hookshots, he got the hookshot. And now he doesn't have to do a ton of the dungeon.
And as a consequence of that, the Master Stalfos drops a small key if you kill him, and if you hit him with 4 bomb arrows, he dies and drops a small key.
Yep.
So that's just a bonus small key that we will use in the run. It's not just Matt playing around.
Yeah, and it's funny because usually in the first 3 Master Stalfos fights, he just, pops up a text box and runs away when he takes enough hits. But even though the bomb arrows are seemingly, they're not a glitch, we don't think at least, they're quick enough at damaging him that you can get 4 quick hits in before he has a time to even spawn the text box.
Matt, answer me truthfully, were you mashing boots underwater there?
No.
Okay. You make me sad.
Make me sad too, buddy.
So anyway, as we mentioned, Matt got that small key. He's going to be using it eventually along this route. But the hookshot is used here to get across this pit, as well as, just through solid blocks.
I had it.
Just phasing through solid matter.
Yep.
Phantom matter.
Walls, blocks, everything in this game is a suggestion. It might be, it's dreamlike, if you would permit me.
Well, there's like a single frame every time you hookshot where Link lifts up a single pixel into the air, vertically up, and I think that's kind of what's going on there. But it's a weird little glitch.
That's actually right because of a backup strat for a trick that we'll see later.
Yeah. Well, I hope we don't see the backup strat.
No, we'll see the trick. We don't know if we'll see the backup strat. I hope we don't.
So this boss, you've got to pull it out of the wall and attack it a few times, and it's RNG. We don't have a way to manipulate it yet, at least. And Matt doing it in a perfect 2 cycles, which is awesome. Luckily, and you're trying to avoid the tail the whole time, but luckily the first 2 spawns, you can pretty comfortably stand in the middle of the screen and react and have enough time regardless of which position the boss takes. Some positions are harder to deal with than others, but Matt showing, it works pretty well.
It's also worth noting, if you have Piece of Power, Red Tunic, it still takes the exact same amount of hits as it would if you didn't have them to kill it.
Also, I just have to say, every single run of this game from anybody that I watch, I'm terrified they're going to use the Ocarina early there. And luckily people usually prove me wrong.
Yeah, I'll accept one.
Yeah.
Yeah, but his opponent still lost that race, so it's fine. Come on. Alright, so now we're just
was that the first time we warped?
Second, we did it for going to the ghost grave as well.
Yep.
That's right. So I think this is the second and last time we use Mambo.
I mean, hopefully.
The Ocarina in
kind
general,
of
isn't
mistake
it?
would be required for that.
And this should be our last time climbing this mountain. And hopefully Matt will actually skip the obstacles this time.
I'll make an attempt. Make no
That's better than you
guarantees.
did last time.
This is true. Look, everybody
So,
gets one, okay?
So we saw that heart piece earlier, and we are in fact going to bomb trigger this because it's, you know, quicker than going through a cave. Show us what you're made of.
Oh my god.
Just buffer it.
I did it.
So
What more do you want from me?
Do it fast.
No.
Did you do that to spite us?
Yes.
Or was that an actual accident?
Oh my
That was determined.
I don't believe you.
I don't
This
believe
is how
anything.
Matt
of what I
treats
do.
his co-commentators.
It's okay. We're gonna fall here, and everything's gonna be right with the world.
Good. So, yeah, as Matt mentioned, he's gonna fall here. This trick you can use to, basically, you have one frame of jumping when you retract your hookshot, and Matt buffers it so it's safe, unfortunately.
Oh
But if you
no,
do-
he wants
You
to
can do
finish
it without buffering, and if you do it that way, you have a higher chance of falling in, and yeah, if you fall in, you go down here.
And Matt did have the option to do this earlier in the run when he came to D4, where without the hookshot, you can actually just do that initial jump, buffer until you get stuck in the wall, and then do a well-timed dash jump all the way across again. And I think that's what most runners do these days, but it's, in my opinion at least, more difficult than hookshot jumping across, especially if you buffer it like this.
It's not really necessary until you get like to the higher echelons of running this. So I will choose to play it safe, for I am a lowly scrub.
And
Yeah,
of course,
if you-
the route still works this way, so it's fine.
Yeah, if you don't have the fortune of being born French or TGH, you probably don't need to worry too much.
Did you think about it?
Yep. I didn't see where the croissant was.
No, I mean, did you think about doing the thing?
What, early hookshot?
No,
The thing.
the thing.
Turning into a giant robot?
No, you know, Vice is gross.
I'm gross?
You're
Matt,
gross.
come on.
No, so Spice Father has found a way to do a pit buffer, I think it is.
No, it's just a
Hookshot
hookshot jump.
Oh, it's a hookshot jump? I don't
It's just
know.
a normal hookshot jump. It's just people.
It's just
don't like it.
disgusting.
Oh, yeah.
No one likes it, even though it's fast. And they're like, "Oh, but it ruins my menu." So change your menu so you're faster.
I mean, if Sagas is willing to reroute the entire game for speed,
I know,
why
right?
can't we just change one menu?
I mean, nobody needs an excuse to not do it. It's a terrible strat.
You know what? Why don't you go bomb that giant metal ball there?
It didn't come up? Oh, that's not good.
You didn't get close enough.
Yeah, that's fair. Alright, fixed it.
So, as I mentioned before, bomb triggers, they do something weird where they activate sprites in the place of the bomb. And sometimes in certain rooms, you actually have to kill certain enemies so that the sprites are deloaded. Otherwise, instead of bomb triggering the pillar, you would have bomb triggered that green Zal instead, and it just would have popped out of the ground. But yeah, so we bomb trigger all 4 pillars, and it's much quicker than carrying the big iron ball around.
And like infinitely quicker than bombing the iron ball for some reason.
It's fine.
I don't even know
Everything's
who would
fine.
do that though. Spearster, do you know anyone who would do that?
I actually don't. I don't get this reference.
It was you.
When did I do that?
It was
I don't
so
know, like a
long
few
ago,
months
he
ago.
didn't even remember.
It was like a few months ago, and you're just like, "Hey, please forget."
I'm gonna try once.
I guess worked for you, but
Oh, I remember
not
that.
us.
Yep. Wow, you almost embarrassed me. If only my memory wasn't terrible.
Wow! Alright, well, screw you two. You stopped one bit away.
So Matt never actually goes for that, and the one time he does, the Goomba has to tease him.
Yeah, juked him. But honestly, that super jump that Mac did as a backup there is so real. It's just so cool. It's a shame that it's technically slower than jumping on the Goombas, but
It's slower than relying on RNG to get
Yeah,
perfect
so-
chances.
So what Matt was trying to do there is he super jumped off that bottom wall, and he was trying to then, if you jump on the Goombas, you actually get an extra jump, kind of like Mario, I guess. But similar to jumping off the ledge, your collision is turned off during that hop, so you can just keep bouncing off of Goombas and up that ledge. But it does rely on the Goombas playing nice with you. And
Also, yeah, when the eagle goes off the top of the screen, it actually just sets his position to -1 vertically, which if you shoot your hookshot downward, it'll just keep going until it hits something, but since the menu is for reasons unknown, not solid, it just goes right through, and it'll hit the eagle eventually.
Well, and that screen is really weird because normally if you try to shoot the hookshot through an open doorway to the edge of the screen, it'll just clink off the edge of the screen. And for example, in our no save and quit category, where you never, like it's just a single segment run, the hookshot will clink on that screen as well, but for whatever reason, if you save and quit at any point, or actually, I think there are theories that it has something to do with the warp portals around the overworld or something, but
There's black
anyway.
magic that forms walls around the
yeah,
screen.
there's some magic going on, and if you've saved and quit at the appropriate time, that barrier disappears on that one screen, and we don't really get it, but it lets you, wrap around the world and kill the eagle.
Yeah, nobody's really tested too hard because we know how to make it work anywhere we care to do it.
Yeah, it's more of a curiosity at this point.
Wow, this menu's all sorts of bad.
Hey, Zuberang!
Hey!
I don't
So-
care for your wife. I am not saving her.
So you're supposed to hookshot across there, which forces you to pick up Marin and save her, which turns into like a 40-second cutscene of her talking, and then another 40-second cutscene of the owl coming to visit. So it actually saves a ton of time to just skip across there.
And there's two ways of doing that. You could just dash jump across, or you could do that and look cool.
Yeah, so for whatever reason, if you frame perfectly, use... Well, how does it... Do you know how it works? I don't even remember how
You
it
have
works.
to be holding in the direction of your dash forward, and then feather and boomerang with boomerang on B on the same frame.
Yeah, there's something about jumping and using the boomerang on the exact same frame while you've got dash speed. It confuses the hell out of the game. It's almost like TASes a lot of times use the combination, like the impossible combination of up and down at the same time or left and right at the same time to really confuse the game engine and do wacky stuff like that. But that's one example of like an RTA viable thing which looks almost identical to those glitches.
Yeah, and it's like bonus words. If you do it while you're going sideways, it launches you backwards. But if you do it while going up or down, it launches you in the correct direction. So it's like, you have to account for that because you saw Matt dashing into the rock before he did it here.
Yeah.
But there is a spot in Color Dungeon you can actually get a similar thing without actually using Feather. Just by using your boots to dash into one of the like bouncy pads and using your boomerang the frame you get bounced by it.
Taking the time to fix that. That's been annoying me the entire time it's been like that. The problem with the ocarina in this game is it brings up a submenu whenever you hover over it. That submenu is annoying.
Yeah. So, like in the Oracle games that followed this, they had similar items with submenus, but the menu wouldn't pop up until you selected it. In this game, it just pops up automatically when you hover over it, so we just kind of try to put the ocarina as far out of the way as we can.
And Matt just did a trick there we call bookshot because hookshot goes on B. Where if you're positioned in a certain way, you can use the hookshot along with the feather at the same time to get a fast hookshot. And that makes you go fast enough that doesn't properly calculate your collision with the key block, I guess. And you can sort of clip through it.
Very
Well, it's sort of like a
interesting
flock
game.
clip. It gives you that one extra pixel inside the block, kind of like a flock clip, that you can then wiggle out of it on the other side. It's very similar to the Zoomerang in that it's kind of interesting that this game actually processes the buttons in a different priority. So you actually specifically have to put the hookshot on B or the boomerang on B if you want both things to activate on the same frame.
And Matt doing lava swim, that's basically like a Jesus jump while you're on water, but if you transition and your sub pixels a certain way, or if you're slashing, so that fixes it, when you go to the other screen, it just thinks you're swimming.
And
So,
then we see the boomerang's wonderful hitbox go through the go through the solid wall there on the mountain to grab that heart piece. But yeah, with the lava swimming, it's basically you just transition before the game has a chance to check to say, okay, he's landed on a liquid surface. Is it lava? Like you bypass that check. It didn't have time to activate.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised they didn't, like, that the lava is coded in a way that allows that at all. It just
Yeah, instead of just being a lava tile, it's technically death water.
Yeah. I guess it probably simplified programming for like the splash animation for when you fall into it.
Yeah, I suppose. Well, I guess they figured drowning in lava is drowning in water.
Do not be Alfezzo.
I almost did it. I automatically went to save and quit, and I was like, wait, no, this is wrong.
Something feels wrong.
Something's
You're
wrong
mad
here.
Yeah,
I'm about to make a fool of myself.
Just Alfezzo doing that in a no save and quit run, where even if he, like, when he did that, he couldn't even recover the run because he'd broken the rules. This is
So
Hothead, he's mysterious.
You have to hit it with the fire rod to get it to stop.
Oh, magic rod.
What did I say?
You said
You said fire rod.
I'm an embarrassment.
Yeah, I know.
It is the magic rod, and yeah. So Hothead jumps out of the lava on fire. It takes one hit to put him out of fire, and that doesn't actually like affect his HP at all. And then you've got to keep hitting him to break the shell. But the boss has these crazy iframes that you have to wait before you can actually do damage. And it's just, it feels like an RNG fest, even though it's like the amount of iframes the boss has is set in stone, and you know, with enough practice you can figure it out. But it's a really horrible boss.
No, we
You're-
fight
you're-
fire with magic.
Yeah.
It's a big point of contention in the community. Is
Because
a fire
magic
rod is a
melts the
magic
ice,
rod.
and it also puts out the fire.
It's magical
Yeah.
fire is what I've always said.
A lot of people coming from Link to the Past are like, no, it's the fire rod.
Or
Because
like,
that's what it is in that.
wait.
But in this game, it is.
we gently
magic
have
rod.
to tell them it is the fire rod. Burn, baby, burn.
Well, because it's the magic rod and
Magic
it
rod.
sets things on magic. It shoots magic, it sets things on magic.
Yes.
Like, I don't know how you could possibly confuse it for the fire rod. I must have just been, you know, overtired or something.
Yeah, it must have been it.
Thank you
is,
for this moment of silence during Covalence National Anthem.
It is always a tradition to not talk during that song, for it is the actual best song in the game.
So that is one spot where Matt could have actually used the song number 1, the Ballad of the Windfish, to open that egg, but it's still just faster to bomb trigger it.
Yeah, so you have to go through this maze, which is always fixed if you don't read the combination. Following which, we're going to go into the final boss gauntlet. There's a manip that you can use.
I won't be.
Matt, why'd you spoil it? Matt's
But yeah,
gonna be using the manip. Wink, wink. Man, my Steam's gone.
I've defeated him. He worked so hard to make this program that allows us to do this manip that requires you to get into certain positions based on your pixel to never
Matt,
get blue
pretends that he
balls.
knows the positions just to like make us think he's finally learned it.
Every time.
He did do a bomb trigger going in. While you're falling in and you're off screen, you can place bombs and they let you bomb trigger. So you skip a good deal of text and also the music. And then also if you do some stuff correctly, you can make sure that your sword kills the blob on the first thing, which is how the manip starts, but it does not continue in this way, because Matt's just hoping at this point.
Hey, 50-50 is better than nothing.
Yeah, the first two are fine to reflect. After that, it's all just 50-50.
I chickened out. I chickened out, guys.
You have... Look at your health bar, Matt.
In blue tunic.
No, you know why that happened? We'll see why later.
You don't have lasers anyway.
No, I mean, I've been playing something else. That caused me to chicken out.
Oh yeah. So anyway, level 2 sword lets you do this a little bit faster. It's only 6 hits with the boot dash. That guy exists. And then the final form of Death Eye, which normally you need to hit it 16 times with arrows or bombs if you're, feeling
Brave.
ballsy.
Yeah.
Or just use a single boomerang hit. Yeah, because that's just how the game works.
That's the boomerang's real secret power, is that it just destroys the final boss.
No, the real secret power is the lawnmower.
So, hold on. Time's gonna be when the white screen hits at the top of the stairs. So that is time. Wow, that's actually incredible.
What is your time?
1:30:84.
That's not too bad.
No.
I was hoping you were going to say it's somehow a PB.
No, I got a golden
Wait.
D8 though.
Did you say 1:30:84?
Yes.
Wait.
1:30, 0 seconds, 840 milliseconds. That's my bad.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't have 3 digits, I have 2.
I'm like 84 seconds,
That's hard. So, if I'm remembering correctly, I did have an incentive for this, and it was not the normal thing that we do for Hundo, where it's you get to pick red or blue tunic. It was actually a showcase of any percent for this game. Because that just seems more exciting to me.
It is.
So, I'd like to thank all of you guys for raising the money to get that done, and for raising money in general. It's fantastic the work that we're doing here. But we're gonna let the credits play out, and then I'll go do another run that's gonna be significantly shorter, and possibly more deadly than this run. But if we have any donations while the credits roll, now would be the time.
Unfortunately, we don't at the moment, but I will hype up the stuff we still can donate for. We are getting closer to having the Forgotten Champion in Hollow Knight. It's the last run of the entire weekend. Let's make sure we get that. Let's make this weekend last as long as possible. And the final party member bid war in Earthbound is still ongoing, with Bubble Monkey in a currently commanding lead, but not insurmountable.
So it's worth noting that if we had been good boys and girls and not died during this run, Marin would be somewhere in this credits cutscene as a bird. Possibly that bird, who knows? Your headcanon, is that bird Marin? Maybe. Alright.
Never get tired of that theme music. I must have a dozen versions of that. in
Oh,
my
it's
playlist.
fantastic. It's great ending music. No, the mountains don't exist anymore, Skipper. Marin is gone.
Yeah, they're all gone. It's in your
Everyone's
head. You were dreaming.
Yeah.
Matt did not get the good ending, so Marin died with everyone else.
You know, I think we should get the good ending, though.
If only there was a way.
No, Spear, I just subbed to you for that emote. Just kidding, channel points. Got him.
Oh, God.
So Link's derpy face is the best thing in these credit sequences. Like, ah, yay! I'm stranded in the middle of the ocean and I'm gonna die.
Well, it's not that he's smiling. It's if you stare at that sprite work for too long, like you lose your soul. His little demon eyes just like
Just sucks it right out of you.
yeah.
Even better is like, I guess the newer aces kind of fix it, but in older ace methodologies or whatever, it kind of messed up the tile set a bit. So his mouth would be in his forehead and kind of stuff, and it would just, it was totally cursed.
Yeah. It's also worth noting again that we play this game at 60 frames per second, or it's 59.97 because that's what resolution the frame rate
59.75.
75.
Or
That's what
72.75.
that's what the Game Boy Color runs on. So if we're streaming at 30 frames per second, it's flickering, and we're only seeing like every other letter that pops up during these credits.
Yeah, the Game Boy hardware didn't support transparency layers like itself, so developers would like mimic transparency by flickering, like every other frame, which actually looked really good on the original hardware because the original Game Boy, especially and the Game Boy Pocket, had a lot of ghosting on the displays, so it would just look like transparency. But in modern times, on 60 frames per second displays, especially if you're streaming 30 frames per second, it looks real dumb.
Product of the times.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's kind of the same thing with the Ghost. Anyone who's watching on 30 FPS would have noticed earlier on, he's kind of just like half the time there, half the time not there.
Or the rave with Mamu.
Yeah.
Alright, so what do you say we beat the game again, shall we?
Let's do it. But won't
So-
that take a very long time, Matt?
Yeah, it's gonna take us another hour and a half.
Twice. Wow. 3 more hours of PhantomMat. Are you all ready for it?
Alright.
Say no.
I'm gonna load up a save state. So I had this one prepared ahead of time.
Yeah, Matt.
This
You go on.
is just gonna be any percent.
Wait, why'd you need a save state for any?
Because I'm lazy.
Oh, you. Oh my god.
Yeah.
You press like 2 buttons and scream a bit.
Ah.
So, any percent. This category has no rules, except for not allowed to use ace, which is arbitrary code execution. What that means specifically is we can do tricks like wrong warp, which is going into a warp point like a door or a staircase, and going somewhere not intended. And we can also do out of bounds, which is basically going into walls that you're not supposed to.
Yeah.
I don't actually know the category too well. We do obviously do wrong warp. I'm not sure how much out of bounds we really do because it's hard. Basically, once you've done a wrong warp, it doesn't really matter if you've done out of bounds because the tile properties are kind of just completely messed up.
So, wrong warping is pretty clear cut because it's just, yeah, you go into a warp and you do not go to the proper location. Out of bounds is just something that we as a community have decided these are the boundaries you can't cross and this is what you can and can't do. But yeah, once you've wrong warped, you end up, so all the screens in this game are all split across three different large 16x16 submaps. And when you enter like a dungeon 1 or dungeon 2, for example, it just picks and chooses from those larger maps and constructs a smaller map for you to explore. When you wrong warp, it just puts you. So this is these are dungeon 2 maps, but he's not in the dungeon, and he just crossed over into Dungeon 1. He's not on either of the dungeon submaps. He's just on the greater underworld map. And like Spice said, the tile set is just screwed up. It's pulling garbage data and trying to render it as graphics. Some of it is real graphics. The properties of the tiles can get all screwed up too. And even where the game is trying to read the memory to say, what is the contents of the chest in this room? It's totally looking in the wrong location. So we can just go through that map, find a chest that has what we need in it. It wouldn't normally. So he just got the ocarina.
Yeah, and you do the bow route, right, Matt?
No.
He's doing ocarina.
If I fail, I fail.
Right. So, Matt, as we mentioned, like he gets a certain number of kills to go to the proper sub map. And so he's gone onto this map where he can make use of certain warps and like zippy properties of tiles to make his way to where he will be fighting Deathel. And this part's actually, it is a bit tricky to get through because the tiles kind of just push you in directions. And this entire section is made even more tricky by the fact that he has 2.5 hearts because he took a hit. That's very lucky.
So you've got a 50. So he's set up in a perfect position to catch the blob with his sword, because there's only 1 or 2 pixels where you can actually damage the blob with your sword. But even if you set it up perfectly, it's still like a 50-50 chance, depending on like, I don't know whether it's your subpixels or the boss's subpixels, but
I think it's like frame rule or something like that.
It could be frame rule too, but it's 50-50.
And I kind of gave him a hard time in the 100% run about like chickening out from these balls, but right here he really wants to be safe about his health.
Yeah, and not just because he only has 3 hearts, but you'll see towards the end if he makes it, you really want to have a good amount of health.
I chickened out! Oh no!
Then stay farther away.
Any further and it doesn't work.
Oh. I thought you were going to get hit by that one.
Okay, so that's pretty much about the end of him.
Uh-oh.
I don't even know how you felt that.
That's pretty much the end of him. As I
You
was
just
saying.
had to say something, didn't you?
Yeah, this Moldorm is scary. He moves totally randomly, and as a bonus, his head repels you. In other categories, if you were to have this happen, you'd kind of just spam your sword, because slashing cancels the knockback and you can sort of just get away with it. In this one, Matt has to be safe.
Yeah, Matt really doesn't want to take any damage here. And he's getting so lucky on some of those, but he's doing good.
So, Deathel Skip. This is a trick that...
Is that it?
No.
That's it!
That's it!
Yes, first try. Frame perfect. That was a frame perfect.
I am so proud of you. You're my little guy.
I'd like to thank Green Tunic for his record video on allowing me to figure out where that was.
So what Matt did was, as Ganon was spawning those bats, so he spawned 6 bats. Each bat individually has 1 frame in its spawn cycle where you can actually freeze it in place if you play the ocarina. Like, you'll interrupt its spawn cycle. And Matt has a visual cue, and he nailed it first try to get that very first bat to freeze in place. So what we're going to see now is that all these different phases of the final boss are a single entity in the game's memory.
Yeah, let's just...
Try again.
Yeah.
Just try again.
Ah, well.
Yeah, when he gets to last phase, he kind of has to tank a few hits, and just... It's a little bit RNG, but 1 heart is not enough.
You need, at minimum, a total of 1.5 hearts in order to complete that. I don't know, you guys want to try again? Do we have enough time to try again? You know what? Let's see if we could do that a bit faster, shall we?
Well, what we could have seen is that when he defeats Ganon and he goes into the final Death Eye phase, the bat also transforms into Death Eye, but because the bat technically has 0 health, you just auto-win the fight.
So, the careful observer might notice that Matt had file names this time that aren't just .
And 3 of them.
The file names that you set for your 3 slots are what are basically the important part of ACE. That's actually the arbitrary code that we execute.
Yeah, so you have 15 bytes of room to craft your code that you'll have the game execute.
Yeah, and it's limited in what bytes are available to you, because it's just whatever bytes are used to represent the Japanese characters. In English, you have like even less available, and I don't think you can really put anything like coherent together.
Yeah, you don't get the same access to opcodes on the English version.
But the start of the run is similar, except we stop in at that library just to save a warp point. There are 2 routes you can go in this. You can either get your kills walking back on the beach, or you can just warp back and then come down and get a couple of kills. And I think it's 3 kills for this category.
Yes.
So there's a chest in Dungeon 5 that Matt just totally skipped in the 100% playthrough, because it's a chest that when you open casually, you get a text box, as if Master Stalfos had left you a note saying that he stole the hookshot. It's, I think, the only chest in the game where instead of spawning an enemy or an item or something like that, it opens a text box. So, as we mentioned when he was doing the other any percent playthrough just now, when you wrong warp and you're just roaming around the submap, a lot of the game's pointers are looking in the wrong places. So, chests are giving you weird different things. The tile sets are wrong. Well, similarly, when you go to open that chest with the text box, it totally misses text part of the ROM. And it actually just sends the execution pointer roaming in totally random spots. And we have to do a lot of little things here to make sure that as it's making its way to the file names that we set, it doesn't crash on the way.
Yeah, everything you've seen Matt doing, talking to the kids, like going one way and then coming back over on the screen, it's all intentional to make sure that this happens.
And killing those Zulls, and here we are, just warped to the staircase. GG.
I think that was fast enough, don't you?
Go on, Matt.
Unfortunately, I didn't reset before this, so this run is still invalid.
Wow, using emulator functions, how could you?
Said I didn't reset.
So
emulator functions like loading save states.
So if the boss is too tough on normal any percent, then just do
Just
ace
ace.
instead.
Yeah. And that is actually all I got.
And I just want to throw out a big shout out to Flockjer for being the one who did the majority / possibly all of the work towards figuring out what code is actually needed for this.
Yeah. So thanks everybody for watching. If you're interested in playing this game, join the community. You can find it through a link on speedrun.com/LADX. I'd like to thank Spearster and Spicefather for coming up here and helping me out.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, definitely join community. We only bite a little bit.
And I've never actually seen Marin become a bird. I wonder what that looks like.
It looks like Marin becoming a bird.
Weird. And thank you to magFAST for letting me come back. It's always a fire whenever I do, but hey, it's entertaining, I hope.
Hey, your run wasn't that bad. It was a well put together run.
If I ever seemed to be like delayed on reading something else because I was laughing so hard most of the time and I was still on mute, so that was just a fantastic run. I enjoyed it immensely.
There's not much downtime in it though, unfortunately.
Yeah, I had to kind of sneak some things in there. Quick. I was trying not to interrupt or anything like that.
Yeah, sorry about that. There's just it's a really dense run in terms of, for the runner there's no breaks, but even just it's one thing after another in terms of glitches and tricks.
Yeah, it was nonstop. I learned a lot. Not that I'll remember any of it, but
it'll all fade away as if it was a dream.
It's okay, Matt won't remember either. He was in a trance. He just like tuned in. It's all gone now.
I was for Ace. I wasn't paying attention to anything I was doing. It's all hand memory now.
That was great. I am done for the day. I'm going to be hanging around to watch the rest. Cookie Monster is coming up next to lead us into a dragon marked for death run. by Rish. So it's going to be great. Stick around. It'll be coming up real soon.